Heyo, this is King Kerfuffle and welcome to my new Nioh build. After my last two builds, I realized that while they were good at what they did, they really had no diversity, which was making the game kinda stale. So the latest DLC, I decided that I wanted to make a build that gave me multiple options for approaching any fight. These are my current stats where I'm level 472, and I've allocated just enough points into dexterity and magic to give me the ninjutsu and onmyo tools I need, and then the rest into stats that directly affect my weapon and attack multipliers. Since just about everything in Way of the Wise difficulty can kill you in one hit, this build emphasizes dealing large amounts of damage while staying in a relatively safe state. I call this build the Battousai, but it's not based off an awesome anime like you might be thinking. Historically, a Battousai is a samurai versed in the techniques of Batto Jutsu, or sword drawing techniques. And Batto Jutsu attacks originate with the sword in the saya, or sheath. I managed to find both a Katana and an Odachi with super rare star stats that emphasize two Batto Jutsu style skills, EI Quick Draw and Imperative Strike. Now I personally like to name my own weapons since the game just gives every item the same generic name as the base item it comes from, regardless of the stats it has. Based off their elemental stats, I call my katana Ikari no Fujin, or Fujin's Fury, Fujin being the Shinto wind god, and my Odachi is Orochi Kiba, or Fang of the Great Serpent. The emphasis of this build is on EI Quick Draw, so it is paramount that you get 5 pieces of Ethereal gear with Grace of Futsunushi, and as long as you have an accessory with -1 to set bonus requirements, you'll get the 6-piece bonus to EI Quick Draw. As for the remaining 3 pieces, those are dealer's choice. For me, I got Grace of Susanoo before anything else, so I just ended up with that. But any 3 pieces of a Grace set will give you a buff to CCD, so it really doesn't matter. Then lastly, since I like to use Paralysis items, the Kabuto has to be Hino-Enma's, since it's the only armor piece in the game with the Paralysis damage buff. The best you can get is Divine, since Ethereal gear can only drop randomly, and this helmet can only be forged. You can also stack even more Paralysis damage on with accessories, which should easily get you over 100% more damage while the enemy is fully paralyzed. So with all of this put together, the question becomes, what can this build do? Well, for starters, it is not by any means the best at doing any one specific thing, but it is still strong enough in all of its facets to get the job done. I can tell you right now that to get your stats where they need to be, you'll be spending a lot of time farming for weapons with the right random star bonus, and then a lot of money and resources reforging them for the remaining stat rolls. My katana is literally the best I could possibly make it. Plus, it's one of the strongest base damage swords in the game. One of the key stats you need to have on your sword is Nullify damage after dash attack. The reason for this is because you can run in on an enemy and quickly hit them, which immediately negates all incoming damage for a few seconds. You also need a piece of gear that gives you attack damage ×2 after a dash attack. If you do a key pulse immediately after your dash attack, you can go directly into a charged EI Quick Draw and get the hit just before the effect wears off for a high damage strike. That then gets amplified even further if you're using the right Spirit Guardians, ninjutsus, and onmyo magics. The highest I've ever been able to get my damage up to so far was in this clip against Onryoki, where I hit him with an attack that did 543,861 damage, which looks pretty impressive at first, but there's a lot going on in this clip that some of you may not realize since the area that displays status effects only goes so far on the screen. But I'll quickly break down what you can't see.
For starters, I'm using 2 specific Guardian Spirits, Tengen Kujaku as my primary for its buff to attack on Amrita absorption while in high stance, and Hinezumi as my secondary for its buff to CCD while health is in critical. Before the clip, I used a Leeching Talisman to bring my health down to 1 HP to kick in Hinezumi's effect. Also make sure you have a piece of gear or an accessory with tenacity on it, otherwise you're just going to kill yourself. I put down several Paralysis traps since they can cumulatively stack and proc Paralysis faster. Then I start flailing around like an idiot until I get my key down to 0, which gives me 2 attack buffs. But one is for an attack ×2 when key reaches 0, which wears off way too fast so it becomes irrelevant. I then pop Leeching again for an attack increase, Extraction for Amrita creation, and Hermit to stop from being staggered while hit, which ultimately ended up being unnecessary. I then spawn Onryoki, hit him with Weakness Talisman, and throw down Makabishi, which slow him down and also do small amounts of physical damage which proc Amrita creation from the Extraction Talisman. When the Amrita hits me, it procs 2 more attack buffs, one for a piece of gear and the other for Tengen Kujaku. As Onryoki approaches my traps, I switch to a low stance and tag him just as he Ezekiel Elliott's over me, giving me the attack ×2 buff. Before landing on my traps, while I charge up and hit him with an attack so devastating it's like hitting him in the dick with something the size of a Greyhound boss!
So what in God's name is the point in showing you all this? It goes to show that while those big numbers can be cool, the amount of prep work that goes into them is sometimes so over the top and so unnecessary that it really isn't worth it. and ultimately you should be striving to make a build that doesn't restrict you to just one playstyle. When I go through Maraboshi, I don't need the attack damage times 2, I can do my timely guard stuff, or I can just simply do a regular paralytic EI. Heck, I can even mix it up and use my Odachi if I want to. Sure, it doesn't throw up as big a number, but they all go down in one hit anyway, so there's really no reason to restrict your playstyle. Plus, sometimes enemies are more defensive and they never even let you hit them with the super EI. So like any true samurai, adapt to the situation and use all of your skills and tools to your advantage. That's essentially it for this build. If you've been playing Nioh long enough, you know which passive skills to put points into, and I would recommend you stick to using Tenjin Kujaku and Hine-Izumi as your guardians. If you want to do a living weapon run, I recommend switching to Kato, and if you're having a hard time getting nullified damage after dash attack on your weapon, you can use Anku, which passively gives that ability to you. You'll take a hit in your total damage, but at least you'll still be alive. And it especially works well with the Odachi, since I'm pretty sure nullified damage after dash attack isn't even available on this weapon. I hope you've enjoyed everything I've gone over. I won't be putting up another video for a while because I'm going to focus on getting ready for my Shodan test in Sakurai Ha Kogen Itoryu, Kendo and Iaido this winter. With that, domo arigatou gozaimasu, and good luck, samurai.